Hi everyone, thanks for showing up. Yes, because my name is so difficult, I actually put like I have something in there, so it's like a brown chessboard. Sounds brown for brown and chess for chess. Brown chess, it's very easy, you know, for everyone. I'll try to, I have quite a lot to cover, so I hope I have enough time to do this. First I'd like to thank a couple of people, especially the ones on the left who are a couple of honor students who did an amazing job of getting quite a lot of data I will actually use today, and the people from HR Wallingford on the right and from the University of Exeter. First also NERC and for money, HR Wallingford for money, and KTP, which is Knowledge Transfer Partnership. And if you want to know more about that, I'm very happy to tell you afterwards. Background, as every one of you know, there are large plans, and for example for wind farms. See if I can do this. Yeah, it works. So the turbines nowadays are huge, and over here it says they're like up to 175 meters. I've seen now one in the Firth 5 just last week, which is almost 200 meters high. And this is great, don't get me wrong, I think this is great. However, of course, this needs a solid base. And for a solid base, mostly we need pile driving, which, as a lot of you also know, this is a very intensive impulsive noise, which might or might not have an effect on animals. If we look at fish, there are some things unknown. First of all, very important to understand, there are 30,000 species of fish, right? And this is a staggering number, 300 in the North Sea. And I just put in a couple of things that we know. So, for example, we know noise can create stress in fish. This is shown, for example, in goldfish, exactly, which is very interesting, but maybe not for the fish we are interested in. It can damage hearing, it can alter behavior. So, for example, it can increase aggression. And it can also impair communication. And these are just a couple of things that can happen during noise in the environment. So there is kind of a knowledge gap, and especially for the species we are interested in. And especially now this is becoming more important for industry because of the legislation, for example, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive and other national and international legislation. One of the companies that tries to deal with, making a little bit of predicting what might happen during noise is HR Wallingford. And so I'm working together with them on a noise propagation model. So the aim of what I'm doing is to improve and validate this model and to use scientifically obtained data as parameters for the model. The model is called HAMMER. A very nice acronym of hydroacoustical model for mitigation of ecological response. It's basically three parts. First is the underwater acoustical propagation model, then hydrodynamic part, and then the ecological response model. And that's basically where I come in, which would be a focus of this talk. I will tell you a little bit about the other parts, about the model, but I'm not a numerical model, so if you have any questions about it, I'm very happy to answer them. But it will be, if are really difficult questions, I might have to come back to you later. So it's based on RAM, which is apparently an established numerical model for noise propagation. It predicts a transmission loss from a point source throughout the water column, 360 degrees around the source. It takes into account, like I said, the bathymetry, sediment type, and of course this is very important for noise propagation, as this alters transmission of the underwater noise loss. And it uses a hydrodynamic model grid from Telemac to produce the sound map. And this can look more or less like this. So this is the south of the UK, Bournemouth is here-ish. So this is all water over here. There's not a lot of land. Here is the pile driving in the middle, so the white dot is the single source in this case, and the colors are the noise or the transmission loss of the noise source. So as you can see, close to the source, it's darker red, so there's less transmission loss. But interesting here what you can see. So if you go close to the coast, the noise seems to be quieter for a number of reasons. And also what you can see when you put all those things in, like bathymetry and currents, that there seems to be a trench over here, and you can see here as well. So that means that suggests there's a deeper trench, and thus there's better noise propagation. I'll skip the right one for the moment. The model has been validated using pin piling data from CGen tidal turbine in Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland. And so the noise source was over here. Here the triangles represent the collection points of the noise. But basically what I would like to show or to highlight with this slide is that the model had quite a high degree of accuracy with the collected data. So we were actually quite happy to use this model forward. So then we'll talk a bit about physiology behavior. So we were interested in a couple of things. We're interested mostly in the impact of pile driving on noise, but we also did a couple of studies with ship noise, which I think are quite interesting, so I'll highlight them to you as well. And we look at ventilation rate, which is opercular beat rates. So that's basically the gills. If the gill go open and closed, that will be one opercular beat rate, and which then of course gives you ventilation. And we also looked about dissolved oxygen consumption. Furthermore, we looked at the impact of pile driving on feeding behavior. We looked mostly on the number of fish, or the number of feeding events, the number of food items consumed, and the attacks on fish. We used this European sea bass, which look a little bit like that, if you draw them really nicely. And this is the the noise distribution map. And everywhere it's red is where one can find sea bass in the field. Ventilation. So the question, does pile driving noise impact on ventilation? We did this in a tank. We first habituated the fish, and then we put the fish in the tank, as you can see here. And they first got 2 minutes of ambient noise, and then we switched this to another ambient track or to a pile driving noise or to ship noise. And then we counted the amount of opercular beat rates. These are the results. On the y-axis, the ventilation rate every 15 seconds, and here's the time on the right. So the first 2 minutes were just ambient noise for all groups. Blue is the group that received the ambient treatment. Green is the group that had the ship noise, and red the group that was exposed to pile driving noise. And this will be the same throughout the talk. And as you can clearly see, the ambient group actually it stayed really similar. So the ventilation rate was really similar throughout the experiments. However, for both the ship and the pile driving noise, there was a high peak, so clearly highly significant when the noise started. But also interesting to see is that in more or less 6-7 minutes, there was no difference anymore between the ambient groups and between the level that it started with. So this might be good news. That might mean, hey, there's a habituation going on for both ship and pile driving noise. And then we looked at the oxygen consumption. We had a similar setup. Now, of course, we did. The only difference was that we took water samples at 0, 15, and 30 minutes to know the amount of oxygen that was consumed from the water. And we did a lot of other things to make sure, we did exactly. We knew how heavy the fish was and how long, so we can actually know exactly how much oxygen is consumed per gram of fish. These are the results. Again, it's quite interesting. So the blue is the ambient line. No difference for the first 50 minutes, and also then going for the second 50 minutes. For both the ship and the pile driving, for the first 50 minutes, they were again significantly increased compared to the ambient noise. And here it becomes, I think, very interesting. So if you then look at the ship noise, for the second 50 minutes, it looks like fish that were exposed to the ship noise actually did not have a difference anymore in the amount of oxygen consumed in comparison to the to the ambient group, or how they started in the first place. However, for the pile driving, this actually stayed high. And we think that something might be going on, that it's more easy to habituate to more continuous noise, in this case, ship passes, than to this impulsive, really high impulsive noise. The last experiment, so we did something with feeding. Again, there was a fish in a tank, and we put feed or food items through these little holes in the tank. The fish could not see the observer, so could not see the hand. And we did this every 20 seconds, and again during pile driving noise and during ambient noise. And then we recorded the food strike and a number of food items that were consumed. These are results, and I think this is the most striking one. So this is the number of fish. We did it for 20 fish in total. Green are the amount of fish that fed during the ambient group, and the yellow bars are the fish that are not fed. So clearly, as you can clearly see, many less fish were feeding during pile driving noise than during the ambient ambient noise. This is a graph that shows the number of pellets that was consumed, the total amount, and of course, because you have less or more fish consuming pellets, there are more pellets consumed. However, if we looked at only the fish that were eating, even then there was a 40% higher food intake for the ones during ambient noise than during pile driving noise. And this is the number of attacks on the food for the fish. So, what to do with this? So, we want to put it into a model. This is actually quite difficult, and thank you. And we did this in Liverpool Bay because we know here the bathymetry, we know a lot of data about the currents, and a lot of other interesting things that are useful for the model. So I put in noise modeling for pile driving for 8 hours a day, with a gap of 2 hours in the middle, and the fish in this case travel from north to south of the river Dee. So this is the first model. Before I started, which I hope it worked, it did work yesterday, so I keep your fingers crossed. The fish will start more or less here. There are 3 different kinds, if you will. The first ones will be black, will be just drifters, so they don't do anything. For example, that would be just if we put a piece of wood, something in the sea, would just drift with currents, right? So you might sometimes be able to see it sticking out and then going back behind here again. Then we have the fish that are insensitive to noise, which are the red ones, and the fish that are sensitive to noise, which will be the white ones. The pile driving is more or less here. I didn't put it in the graph, sorry about that, but it's more or less here. And this will be the area, in this case, which is louder than 120 dB. Here on the right, you can see the hours, and this is in meters. So this from here to here is 10K. So, and what I put in now in the model is like what I got from what we got from the experiments. So basically, during noise, the fish will have like a higher metabolism and they eat less. And in this case, I did a really simple thing because we don't know at the moment yet. That means for me, they swim 50% slower because they have a larger energy expenditure. And this is how it looks like. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. So I might be a bit much. So here, as you can see, so is the pile driving in the time, and the fish start over here and go to the south to the River Dee. So this is the Liverpool Bay. And although I think it doesn't look much, and it looks like exactly the same is going on for both, especially the white and the red fish, the insensitive fish that are insensitive to noise in this case, and the fish that are sensitive to noise. It is quite clear that if you look at it statistically at least, that the ones that are sensitive to noise are arriving at the endpoint later than the other fish. Interestingly now, if I do exactly the same, and we get rid of the behavioral and the physiological things, but we say fish avoid noise, because we know this actually from literature. And do you get a quite different model? It's exactly the same. So the fish start again in the north over here. It's a little bit slower, so it should be easy to watch for you. Again, the fish that are sensitive to noise are the white ones, and here is the area that the piling is. And here you can see that. So the red ones are actually going relatively slowly to where they want to go, and the white ones, because they're actively avoiding the noise, are getting out of the zone. Of high intensity noise. I will stop it for now because it doesn't really change that much. So my take-home message to this is that I think predictive modeling, together especially with empirical data and physiology and behavior, can actually help to predict animal behavior, especially in complex environments. And hopefully, if we get a couple of simple experiments that we can do in the lab, that are also verified in the field. For example, I did not show you this, but for the oxygen consumption rate, we get exactly the same results in the lab as in the field. This makes it, of course, much easier to do the experiments much quicker and much more cost-effective. And hopefully, we can do this for more species. Just really quick, the future. So, also very important, as you see. So the most important thing is to obtain good movement data from the field, and especially avoidance. And it's such a simple question. Do animals actually avoid noise? And we do not necessarily have really good data good data for that. So this is something we're going to do this summer. Furthermore, we will look to validate more of the experiments we did in the lab, to do it in the field and see if we can get if we actually get similar results or not. And we will improve the noise modeling further, and especially when taking into account reflections, for example, from islands, from harbor walls, and from other large objects. Thank you very much. Any questions?